Hey guys, Rominating Reaper here. So, this past weekend, the Oscars happened. Yep, the 97th Academy Awards, the most hotly anticipated date on any movie fan's calendar. This is basically Christmas Day for film buffs. Well, to be fair, Christmas Day can also be Christmas Day for film buffs. But the Oscars, is a date that has a lot of eyes on it. There's a lot of discourse surrounding it before and after the actual ceremony. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to add to that by giving my thoughts on the big winners from this year's Oscars. Now, I don't have much of a horse in the race in regards to the short film and documentary categories, so I'll mainly be giving my thoughts on the wins in the big categories anyway. Starting with. And so, the five nominees for Best International Feature were I'm Still Here, Flow, The Girl with the Needle, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Emilia Perez. The only one of these I'd actually seen was Emilia Perez, so my main investment in this category was I don't care who wins, I just need Emilia Perez to lose. And thankfully, it did. I'm Still Here was the winner, which I haven't seen it because it only opened in the UK fairly recently, just in time for the ceremony. And of course, all my local cinemas practically buried it. But I can only hope that now that it has won the Oscar, they'll capitalise on that success and expand it out wider so more people can see it. I mean, it's the only logical thing to do, right? Right? And so, on to Best Animated Feature, of which the five nominees were The Wild Robot, Inside Out 2, Flow, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and Memoir of a Snail. I was really rooting for Wallace and Gromit here because, well, it's Wallace and Gromit, just peak fiction and like some of the greatest characters ever created. Plus, it would really prove the point that stop motion is indeed still alive and well, so I was backing them. Didn't win ultimately, the win instead going to Flow, which I've been hearing a lot of great things about. It has yet to release here in the UK, of course, but I'm really hoping they don't fumble that rollout. I really hope they capitalise on that Oscar success because, yeah, from all I've been hearing, it apparently is more than worth the hype. And so, on to Best Original Score, of which the five nominees were The Brutalist, Conclave, Wicked, The Wild Robot, and Emilia Perez. I was pretty salty about this one because Hans Zimmer's score for Dune Part 2 was, disqualified because apparently reused too many pieces from Part 1. Yeah, pretty livid about it, but rules are rules. I can't be too mad though, because ultimately the win ended up going to The Brutalist. I'm really, really happy about it. I thought Daniel Bloomberg's score was fantastic, really majestic stuff that just really served to enhance the epic scale of the film. Plus, that shot of the Statue of Liberty upside down while the overture played, it is just burned into my memory.
Megnyom Amerikába, és én követni foglak.
Yeah, absolute cinema. And so, on to Best Original Song, for which the five nominees were El Mal from Emilia Perez, Mi Camino, also from Emilia Perez, The Journey from the 6888, obligatory Diane Warren nomination, Never Too Late, from Elton John, Never Too Late, and Like a Bird from Sing Sing. Ultimately, yeah, I gotta concede here because, yeah, Emilia Perez won specifically for El Mal. Now, I don't really remember the songs from Emilia Perez because, they're not just none of them are memorable. But from what I remember, that was like the one good one. So yeah, it's as close to a deserving win as this film is going to get, and honestly, I should take that. It's a pity though the moment was undermined by a really cringe-worthy speech from the songwriter in which she just randomly started singing.
And thank you to Emilia, Emilia, Epifania, Emilia,
Yeah. It's not the only time we're going to be hearing about weird speeches this video, so get used to it. Now on to Best Costume Design, of which the 5 nominees were Gladiator 2, Conclave, A Complete Unknown, Nosferatu, and Wicked. A fairly competitive category, there's a lot of really good stuff in here, but ultimately, the win ended up going to Wicked, of which, you know what? It deserves it. There's a lot of great craftsmanship and attention to detail that went into these costumes that just has to be commended, and it is one of the many aspects where you can see the film's massive budget, every penny of it on the screen, whether it be the Shiz University uniforms, Elphaba's final outfit, the wizard's sharp green suit, or even Glinda's opening look. There's a lot of variety in the costumes here, and it all does a great job of making this fantastical world feel real and tangible. Now on to makeup and hairstyling, of which the 5 nominees were Wicked, Nosferatu, The Substance, Emilia Perez, and A Different Man. Again, a fairly competitive category, a lot of really good stuff in here, so something had to win, and that win deservedly went to The Substance. Yeah, the makeup that went into this film is truly impressive stuff. Obviously, yes, there is Monstro Elizasu from the end of the film, but even then, the sort of gradual decay of Elizabeth Sparkle is really sold by the fantastic makeup work. The bony finger, the graying hair, all of it really sells someone who is, gradually decaying as a result of misuse of this fantastical substance. It's just a lot of old school, body horror craft, and it is a delight. Now on to Best Visual Effects, where all the big tentpoles get their chance to shine. The 5 nominees for this category were Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Better Man, Alien Romulus, and Wicked. Again, much like the previous 2 categories, there's a lot of fantastic stuff in here. So it really was very, very tight. But ultimately, the one that got the edge was Dune Part 2. I mean, seriously, it absolutely deserves it because, well, the sheer level of effects required to bring a story of this, grand, epic scale to life. This is proper epic scale sci-fi, and they pulled it off with flying colors. Denis Villeneuve mentioned for part 1 that, in having to complete it in the pandemic, the effects were more like a sprint than a marathon. But that issue was not present for part 2, and they were able to pull it off the best they could make it. and it really enhanced the experience, especially getting to experience these jaw-dropping visuals on an IMAX screen. Now on to Best Production Design, where the five nominees were Dune Part 2, Wicked, The Brutalist, Conclave, and Nosferatu. Ultimately, the win ended up going to Wicked, which, of its two wins, yeah, this is the one it deserves the most, because my god, those sets are of such a genuine sense of scale. You know, whether it be Shiz University or the Emerald City or even Munchkinland, where they planted millions of flowers for real. All of it is of such a genuine sense of scale that it really enhances and brings the world to life in a way that feels real and tangible. And, you know, it's where you can really see all the money put on screen. And it would not be possible without fantastic set design and production design, you know, really overseeing the whole thing. Yeah, seriously, they should take a bow. Next up, we have Best Sound Design, where the five nominees were Wicked, Dune Part 2, The Wild Robot, A Complete Unknown, and Emilia Perez. There's some fantastic stuff in this category, but ultimately, the win had to go to Dune Part 2. My god, the sound in this film is truly on another level. You know, whether it be in the worm riding scene, or that scene earlier on in the film where Jessica takes the water of life. Or even that a truly magnetic scene where Paul radicalizes the Fremen to his cause, you know, truly becoming the Lisan al Gaib.
Jura Hagari, Imashneria Kala, Jeskeobit, Hardahaud, O Erle Chausi, Jura Abzir Sihi Sakurtu Femni. Dune.
None of these scenes would feel nearly as exciting and impactful as they do if it wasn't for some truly fantastic sound design that, again, is just an experience that, you know, just has to be seen to be believed, especially on an IMAX screen. Properly breathtaking stuff. Now on to Best Editing, where the five nominees were The Brutalist, Conclave, Wicked, Anora, and Emilia Perez. Ultimately, the win went to Anora. The editing, of course, being done by the film's director, Sean Baker. And honestly, the second half of the film, I think, really sold me on that editing win because, you know, it takes a very skilled editor to really be able to match the entertainingly chaotic energy of the film's second half, where, you know, stressful scenarios just pile up in very funny ways. And yeah, Baker really rose to the task, and that second half just makes for a real fast paced, stressful, funny delight. And yeah, this is not the last you're going to be hearing of Baker in this video. Now we're on to Best Cinematography, of which the five nominees were Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Nosferatu, Maria, and Emilia Perez. As much as I was gunning for Greg Fraser to win this one for Dune, the win ended up going to The Brutalist. And you know what? I'm not mad because I thought Lowell Crawley did a fantastic job with this one. He shot it on VistaVision, and the squarish aspect ratio that came with that provided so much range. It made the landscapes feel vast and massive in scale, but it also made the character moments feel quite close up and intimate. But also, it is so rich in contrast and color. Oh, it's beautiful. It is truly one made to be seen on the big screen to really appreciate those gorgeous visuals. Now on to Best Supporting Actress, in which the five nominees were Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Monica Barbero for A Complete Unknown. Ultimately, the win here ended up going to Zoe Saldana in her first ever Oscar win, and this is almost just as much of a legacy win as it is just a win for this particular role, because, her performance in Emilia Perez really is one of the only good aspects of that film. She is carrying it on her back. So it feels a shame that she has to win it for this rather than any of the many other roles where she has really been great in. But I do have to bring up the fact that, when she actually got up on stage, she had a sort of emotional moment where, she called out for her mother because, this is a big moment for her, understandably.
Mommy! 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 My mom is here. My whole family's here. I am floored.
But yeah, very proud of her. She's had a great career. Just a pity that this had to be the one she won for, as good as she was. Here's hoping, though, that Avatar Fire and Ash is a lot better. Now we are on to Best Actress in a Leading Role, which the five nominees were Demi Moore for The Substance, Maggie Madison for Anora, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carlos Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, and Fernando Torres for I'm Still Here. This one was fairly competitive, especially between Demi Moore and Maggie Madison, but ultimately, the win ended up going to Madison. And you know what? Fair play. She deserved it, because this is a proper star-making performance, and, this big win really solidifies that. I also got to give credit to the fact that during her acceptance speech, she paid lip service to the sex worker community, of which, is featured very prominently in Anora.
I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community. I will continue to support and be an ally. All of the incredible people, the women that I've had the privilege of meeting from that community has been one of the highlights of this entire incredible experience.
But yeah, I am really, really looking forward to seeing where her career goes after this, because, this is a big, big moment for her. Now we are on to Best Supporting Actor, of which the five nominees were Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice, Yuri Borisov for Anora, and Ed Norton for A Complete Unknown. Ultimately, the win ended up going to Kieran Culkin in his first ever Oscar win. Really happy for him, he's a real fun character, and he was fantastic in A Real Pain, a very funny and tragic character in equal measure. I really enjoyed during his speech the anecdote about his wife, and him saying now that he's won the Oscar, they better start working on that fourth kid.
Then I just have this to say to you, Jazz. Love of my life, ye of little faith. No pressure. I love you. I'm really sorry I did this again. And let's get cracking on those kids. What do you say? I love you. I love you, Zissou and Booba. I love you, 52.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And, it's great to see, yes, while Macaulay Culkin was the sort of child star of Home Alone, it's great to see that Kieran has really broke through as a great actor in his own right. Now we are on to Best Actor in a Leading Role, of which the 5 nominees were Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, and Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown. Ultimately, the win, his second ever Oscar win, ended up going to Adrian Brody, and his speech was, it was interesting. I mean, I'm not going to argue against the fact that he really deserved that win. His performance in The Brutalist was fantastic. But yeah, I think his speech might have diminished some of that goodwill a bit, because even before he got up on stage, he took a bit of gum out of his mouth and chucked it to his partner. And when he got up on stage, he asked for the music to be stopped.
And I'm wrapping up. Please, 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 I'm wrapping up. I will wrap up. Please turn the music off. I've done this before. Thank you. Done this before. It's not my first rodeo, but I will be brief. I will not be egregious, I promise.
Not only did he proceed to go over the allotted time, but he broke the record for the longest ever acceptance speech. Just look at Cillian Murphy's soul gradually leaving him as Brody just yaps on and on. Yeah, can't wait to see how long his next acceptance speech will be in 20 years from now. Now we're on to Best Original Screenplay, of which the 5 nominees were The Brutalist, Anora, The Substance, A Real Pain, and September 5. Again, a fairly competitive category, some real good stuff in there, but ultimately, the win went to Anora. And again, this is done by Sean Baker. This is his second win of the night. And I know people have been sharing pages of the script where it's just sex scenes or quoting scenes where Annie calls Igor a faggot, to sort of try and undermine its win. But to me, it deserves it because, the key to a good comedy, especially one like this where, it's fast-paced and full of chaotic scenarios, is a good script that is tightly written and, full of rigorous discipline, some method to the madness, if you will. And I mean, the fact that the whole comedy throughout that entire home invasion scene landed as well as it did is a testament to Baker's screenplay. Seriously, that whole scene was absolutely hilarious. Possibly one of the funniest scenes of the year that didn't come from Hundreds of Beavers. Now we're on to Best Adapted Screenplay, of which the 5 nominees were Conclave, Emilia Perez, Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, and A Complete Unknown. Ultimately, the win went to Conclave, which, it really deserves. It's a really good film with a very well written screenplay that balances out the sort of weightier stakes of the Pope being elected with the juicy infighting and petty squabbles of the Cardinals, but it manages to get ripe old drama out of what is basically a series of scenes of characters voting, and all the practices included in the film are factually accurate. So yeah, it is a really, really well written screenplay all round. And plus, the ending managed to piss off all the right people. So that's a win in my book. Now we are on to Best Director, of which the 5 nominees were Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Sean Baker for Anora, Coralie Farjat for The Substance, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, and James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. Ultimately, the win ended up going to Baker, his third of the night. And so, yes, because he is directing his own screenplay and his own editing, yeah, the whole thing feels like, a truly independent labor of love. So, you really feel he has that deeper connection with the characters he is bringing to life even more. And coupled with the great performances he gets out of his actors, especially Mikey Madison in both the dramatic and the comedic stuff, and how he is able to, tie all that chaos together. Yeah, a really deserved win.
And in a time in which the world can feel very divided, this is more important than ever. It's a communal experience you simply don't get at home. And right now, the theater-going experience is under threat. Movie theaters, especially independently owned theaters, are struggling, and it's up to us to support them. During the pandemic, we lost nearly 1,000 screens in the US, and we continue to lose them regularly. If we don't reverse this trend, we'll be losing a vital part of our culture.
I'd like to talk a bit now about the banter in this year's show, because of course, Oscars banter is always a big part of it every year. The last few years, of course, it's been hosted by Jimmy Kimmel to unfunny results because of the fact that, you can tell he just seemingly doesn't like movies.
Could AI have written Transformers Rise of the Beasts? Yes, the answer is yes.
But this year, Conan O'Brien hosted, and yeah, this might be the first funny Oscars we've had in a while. Yeah. Notably, he made a very funny joke about the very public feud between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, specifically referencing the Super Bowl halftime show this year.
Well, we're halfway through the show, which means it's time for Kendrick Lamar to come out and call Drake a pedophile.
And he also got some sort of good-natured ribbing in at Adam Sandler, who showed up wearing a hoodie and shorts.
Adam.
Conan, what's up, my brother? What's going on, man?
Adam, what are you wearing?
What are you doing right now?
I'm asking you what you're wearing.
Nobody even thought about what I was wearing till you brought it up!
You're dressed like a guy playing video poker at 2 a.m., Adam.
Although, to be fair, Sandler got some witty bits in as well.
You are all welcome to join me for a game of 5-on-5 basketball at Veteran Park tonight. Midnight tip-off, the guy from Nosferatu. Where is he? He's on my team. One more thing. Chalamet!
Yeah, it's nice to be able to watch, the Oscars and keep up with the discourse and actually have, the banter that's come out of it actually be funny. Yeah, I've got my fingers crossed that Conan will be back to host next year. So before I talk about Best Picture, I figure I'll share a few things that I think were snubbed at this year's show. Well, a big one, apart from Hans Zimmer being snubbed of Best Original Score, Denis Villeneuve should have got a Best Director nomination. In fact, the fact that Dune Part 2 got only half the nominations that Part 1 did, yeah, I can only hope that they'll be pulling a Lord of the Rings and they'll come back with a sweep for Dune Messiah. Fingers crossed. Challengers was snubbed as well. You know, this definitely could have gone Best Picture, Best Director for Luca Guadagnino, Hell Editing, Original Score for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, Best Original Song for Compress Repress, Cinematography. You know, there's a lot that it could have gone for, but was completely ignored. And that was a damn shame. Kneecap was also snubbed as well. Should have gotten a Best International Feature nomination. You know, I was rooting for it. You know, as a Belfast boy, and it was very sad when nothing came of it. But we did at least get the dramatic irony of, you know, a openly anti-British music act winning, you know, Best British Film at the BAFTAs. At least I have that. And one last big snub is Adam Pearson for his amazing performance in A Different Man. In fact, he seemed to go pretty much ignored by all the awards bodies, and that is a shame, because while Sebastian Stan was great and does deserve the nominations he's been getting, I feel like Adam Pearson should be getting some recognition as well, because he stole the show. And yeah, ultimately it is disappointing that these didn't get nominated, but it is what it is, I guess. And now, here we are, the main event, Best Picture. And this year, the 10 honourable candidates battling it out for the coveted title are Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Anora, Wicked, The Substance, Nickel Boys, A Complete Unknown, I'm Still Here, Conclave, and Emilia Perez. It was fairly competitive, especially between The Brutalist and Anora, but ultimately the win ended up going to Anora. And yeah, it is an excellent film that I think does deserve the win. You know, I was rooting for The Brutalist, but you know, I'm happy with Anora winning as well, so it does deserve it. And in fact, it does feel a bit of a culmination of all of Baker's previous wins, and indeed Mikey Madison's acting win, Across the Night. And in fact, this, because Baker is one of the producers on the film as well, this is his 4th award of the night. He is now, in one night, tied with Walt Disney as the most awarded individual in Oscars history. So yes, we had 2 records. This one and Adrian Brody's speech. Yeah, this is an Oscars night that will be remembered for years to come. And with that, wraps up the 2025 Academy Awards. Let me know down in the comments, are you happy with this year's wins? What do you think was snubbed? Do you think anything was robbed of awards? And leave your predictions for how long you think Adrian Brody's next acceptance speech will be. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.